Alright, sitting back down. How's everyone doing in live chat? Transitioning back over. Hello, everyone. I saw in the break, I was asked the question, why are old police bad? And I said something ableist, which I did not allow. Because, at the very least, even though not all police officers use excessive use of force, a lot of them do, or kill black people, quite a bit of them do, more than in one, and that's enough. At the very least, all police officers, if they're still part of the institution, which the American police force, many police forces are actually just like institution of white supremacy, they are at least complicit in the systemic problems of the police force and how they are police most predominantly black and brown communities and poor communities, which often poor communities are often black and brown communities, because economics and racism are tied in this country. So that for a while they put on the uniform that they are, yes, the Savvy Wolf says, see the blue wall of science. They are at least complicit because they don't want to call out their brothers in blue or their siblings in the blue. So it's the thing that, like, Douglas Smith can be a fantastic person, a great person. That's why he's your uncle, or he's your brother-in-law, or you love him as a friend, or you love him as a family member, or it's a great family member, a great brother-in-law, a great uncle. Douglas Smith is a great and caring and compassionate person. He's awesome. But when he puts on the uniform and becomes Officer Smith, that's where he is at the very least complicit in what all of his other fellow officers do and get away with, like killing unarmed black people in the streets. The uprising was sparked by George Floyd because that was just like clear and obvious that, like, no, we can't deny that. We see it on video. That's just clearly a lynching on video that we caught by a police officer against a black person. And remember, in that video, there was other police officers just standing by watching. So they were rightfully so charged with compliance, charged in being complicit to that crime of the killing of George Floyd. I mean, and other police officers that still wear the uniform and still do the job of being a police officer are complicit in that police department. And who, I'm sure, just on the virtue of them being police, I probably have done excessive use of force and excessive brutality, especially against black and brown people. Just because here's the thing, it was like when there was the blue flu that happened, like the NYPD doing a police strike because they didn't like the reforms that were getting. Oh god, they're going to be like punished, or like their job is going to be harder as well. No, they went on strike and crime went down in New York. When the police officers go on a strike and stop doing their job as police officers, crime goes down. I think that's kind of evidence that we don't need them. And police officers are bad also because they don't serve to protect us. They serve to protect capital. They serve to protect businesses. Because if you get robbed, because people always say, oh, no, we need the police to protect us from the assholes. Okay, if you get robbed, the police officers will note that you robbed, what happened, and put it on the shelf or they put it in the database and not do anything about it. Because unless they have other evidence, they're not really going to focus on it. But if someone takes a dump at a Tim Hortons, which is a Canadian donut chain, or like a Starbucks, that's where you bet your ass the police department will be on hand. It'll be the number one priority to get that pooper. They must get after the pooper because they protect businesses, not people. So that's why, just like taking a dump in a Starbucks, which is a very rude thing to do. I mean, you can say about the quality of the services at Starbucks, but like taking a dump in the middle of a Starbucks, that's just nasty. Hey, and then Tabby Wolf says in the chat, even if they haven't used force in an unjust manner, if, say, our neighbors are being evicted in the middle of a pandemic because the pandemic causes them to lose income and thus the ability to pay rent, it's the police who will be there to violently enforce evictions. Yes, exactly. Because police protect property, not people. And so the police are the tool of the state the state which has a monopoly on violence, that will enforce these kind of things. And the enforcing evictions things will also come up in another article that I'll read. But hope everyone is like doing it right and taking care of themselves. And Tavi Wolf continues says, even if an individual police officer hasn't personally harmed anyone yet, they can and will be ordered to take actions that harm people at some point. I agree. Hey, that's the nature of being a police officer, as it were. They are again, Officer Smith is part of that organization. So no matter how great the person Douglas Smith is, when he's wearing the uniform, he's Officer Smith and follows the orders of the state for what they want to do, or what they want the officers to do. And so they'll serve the state. And who does the state serve? Well, it's supposed to, we've been told, it serves everyone. But really, what it actually serves are the people who fund the state and funds the police department. And that is the ruling class. Which is why which is why there's less patrols of the rich neighborhoods and more patrols of the poor neighborhoods, honestly. Right, and think about it this way. Police officers also, majority of the time, do not actually live in the places they patrol. They live in the hoity-toity places because they can afford to, because they got the big salaries. They negotiate those things all the time with our police unions. And the police departments always get like the big budgets. Many cities, like 50% of like the city's budgets are for the police. So the police officers get to avoid to go in the hoity-toity places. And so, which is why there is some pushback from city officials as we're against defunding, because if they defund the police, the police that are being defunded live in the hoity-toity places. And so by the police funding, as it were, they fund the hoity-toity places where the police officers live, as opposed to the poor neighborhoods which police officers police. And the hoity-toity places get the best schools as well because of the property taxes. And so by defunding the police is a way of redistributing the wealth, as it were. Because then the police officers won't be able to live in the hoity-toity places and pay the high property taxes, and then have those hoity-toity places, the white places, get excellent schools for that education disparity as well as wealth disparity to continue. So there's a lot of reasons why all police officers are bad. And honestly, some leftists would want us to say that all police officers are complicit. I rather say that even if they're complicit, they're still bad. So all police officers are bad. But now I'll link it again in case anyone joins in. So that's the next article that I'm going to be reading from ProPublica. Police say seizing property without trial helps keep crimes down. A new study shows they're wrong. We were talking about looting before in the first article, and then I played that Kimberly Jones clip that Taffy linked about the looting, as it were. And when we brought up, what about the looting by the police, essentially? Civil arrest forfeiture. And because in the first article, there was a police officer that was handed a tie, $50 tie. My internet's unstable right now. Hold on, I'm in the red. Well, I'm not dropping as many frames as well. Are you able to, am I still streaming? Okay, it's back. Okay, so my stream names now it's green. My box was going in red, or orange, red, orange, but it's back now. I didn't drop that many frames, so it might be a hiccup. So Taffy the Wolf has said, funny how much the property shows up either at police auctions or directly into the possessions of police too. Yeah, exactly. It did buffer a bit. Okay, so yeah. I did notice that, so that's at most. So in case it's still buffering, just a refresh, and it should be a fine. I'll type it in the chat in case anyone needs to read that, if needed. So, it's a ProPublica, so yeah, like in the first article from the body cam footage is what they found. Hey, it's a $50 tie. Oh, this is not a tie, and they just pocket it, even though it was clearly looted from the Target or whatever, and the police officers get to keep it. And so this article is about the study civil arrest forfeiture laws, which allow police to seize property without trial, are frequently justified as tools to seize millions from kingpins. New studies reveals that the median amount taken is as low as $369 in some states. And here's a photo of police officers in Atlanta in June. In a recent civil forfeiture case, in a suburb of Atlanta, sheriffs spent $70,000 in forfeiture funds on a muscle car that he used solely to drive from work. And that's credit to who got the video. And this is an article by Ian McDougall from ProPublica and December 14th this year. This is still the year 2020. And ProPublica was a nonprofit news organization. In 2015, New Mexico's lawmakers unanimously passed a bill to all but end civil asset forfeiture. The process that lets police keep cash or property they seize, even if they never charge the owner with the crime, so long as they suspect that it's linked to criminal activity. High-profile lawsuits are press editions that have prompted some states to re-examine their forfeiture laws. And Linwood said in the chat, I had a house looted near me and get the entire house looted by the federal government. Yes. So see, looting is totally fine when it's done by the police. But they just call it civil asset forfeiture. And again, they just have to suspect that it's linked to criminal activity as well, just like the ticket. And in the last week tonight's video that was covering this, that was from last year or a year or two ago. The police officers said on camera in front of the city council, oh, actually, yeah, there was just this coffee maker at this one place, and we were like, hey, we don't have a coffee maker. This is pretty good coffee maker, so we were just like, oh, let's just take that then. They really admit because someone in the house was arrested on suspicion of a crime activity, they decided to just take the coffee maker. The coffee maker was incidentally linked into the crime somehow of I'm guessing drug charges or something like that. Could have been as simple as domestic violence. The coffee maker was inciting domestic violence then. Yes. I'll continue with the article. Law enforcement officers howled in outrage. In New Mexico, sheriffs and prosecutors implored the governor to veto legislation. Eliminating civil forfeiture, they argued, would hand the bad guys a win and put public safety at risk. You will get less law enforcement. Good. No, that's good. It's good we get less law enforcement. Because if the cops are supposed to be protecting us from assholes, what if the cops are the assholes themselves? And oh my God, what if someone comes in your house and steal your stuff? Okay, what if the police officers steal our stuff? They can just say they were suspected of crime, take our stuff, and call it civil forfeiture or civil asset forfeiture, and does not count as looting or does not count as stealing either, and they can get away with it. So I'll continue on. I'll reread this part. You'll get less law enforcement, predicted the chair of the state's Sheriff's Association, Ken Christian, who noted that the police departments use forfeiture to help fund their budgets. Terry Wolf's comments. Translation. It would make it harder for police to steal people's stuff, and they will be being able to steal stuff under the guise of asset forfeiture. Yes. Don't do this because we don't like it. Continue on. The bill still allows forfeiture, but only through criminal court, which impose a much more stringent burden of proof on prosecutors than its civil counterparts. Oh, at least there you have to make the case for it, and you have to make a case for it in the court of law. We can have our discussions about the problems and matters of the criminal justice system as well. I think I'm actually going for this article for this site, increase it That doesn't help. Oh, helps a little bit. I was just known as like a big empty like white space like over here, and I don't know how to get rid of it. Okay, so like, but I'll continue on where I am right now. Criminal organizers would grow richer and more powerful, Christian warned, if they got to like hang on to cash, cars, and other properties police could no longer seize from them. Like the muscle cars that you like to like drive around, honestly. Back, continue with the article. Taffy says, Taffy Wolf said in chat, the cops, it's not stealing, it's the good guys stealing from the bad guys. Also cops, the people looting for food are the bad guys. Yes, exactly. So continuing on with the article, the end result of this, he says, is that cartels are going to ramp up their money laundering and cash exchanges in the state of New Mexico tenfold. The governor, Susana Matrinas, wasn't persuaded, and she signed the bill into law. Okay. Yeah, that was like Christian's a cop guy that was like defending sort of thing. Okay, the cartel. I gotta look into this. Because I heard some things about like the cartel. We mentioned the war on drugs in one of the previous articles, but it's kind of like, the CIA government funded the cartels or gave them drugs or did that sort of thing because of something else that we were doing in like Latin America at the time. All because of like no, we're not approved of like the socialist like dictators that like they were democratically elected into power by the people, so they instead put in their own dictators that they wanted. Happened in Guatemala in 1954, happened in Chile 1973, happened in Argentina in 1976. So I think like, and during the 80s, like Iran-Contra as it were, that's what or the where's the baby pigs? No, I'm thinking something, but I remember hearing it. I need to research this like a lot more to know more about it, but it's fascinating. But I think we kind of funded the cartel drug war, as it were, for other things like that. Oh, and conveniently, by now having this cartel drug problem, as it were, a war on drugs is a convenient way to arrest black people and put them in jail. And then civil asset forfeiture, their houses, muscle cars, and other things. Or coffee maker. Because like I said, one police officer was like, we didn't have a good coffee maker like that. So anyway, as the article says, back to the article, that the bill was signed into law. So now 5 years after New Mexico effectively banned civil forfeiture, those fears remain unrealized, according to a new study set to be published on Tuesday by the Institute of Justice, a public interest law firm that has been like advocating reforms to forfeiture laws. I'm not going to read the study, but like people can like go to the article and read it themselves. The predicted rise in crime and drop in arrests has not materialized, according to the study, which is based on an analysis of FBI data. Arrests and offense rates in New Mexico, the study found, remain essentially flat before and after the 2015 law went into effect. That based on an examination of crime overall, as well as a specific set of offenses, drug possessions, drug sales, and driving under the influence, arrests and offense rates were also consistent within terms and with trends in two neighboring states, Colorado and Texas. So yeah, the officers were saying, no, don't sign that into the law, because if we are unable to civil asset forfeiture things, then the criminals would just run rampant and do more crimes. Clearly, it has no effect. No, the crime stayed the same. So you're catastrophizing that, like, no, it caused more crimes. It's unproven. And continuing with the article, nor the study shows are civil forfeitures key to cutting off the flow of millions of dollars to major fraudsters and criminal enterprises, as defenders of the practice often claim. Bernard Mondors, the notorious Ponzi schemer, was the principal example of the victors of civil asset forfeiture in a 2007 op-ed in the Washington Journal by by Rob Rosenstein, and then the second most senior official at the Justice Department. He hailed the fact that 3.9 billion has been recovered and was being returned to Muraugh's victims. Rosenstein also cited the case in which 48 millions was seized from drug couriers, and another one in which millions were recovered from 110 million Medicare fraud. That's interesting. The new Institute of Justice study tells a different story. The median forfeiture average is 1,276 across 21 states, where usable data was obtainable. In most of the states, half the cash seizure fell below 1,000. So really, they're just like civil asset forfeiture poor people. Well, that's and if you say, well, it's obvious that poor people do a lot of crime, maybe it's because that poverty is like causing a lot more crime. So let's get rid of poverty, takes care of a lot of the crime. There you go. With far less crime, no need for the police. Well, again, do not serve to protect us, serve to protect businesses' capital. Continue on with the article. In Michigan, for example, half of all civil forfeitures of currency were worth less than $423. And in Pennsylvania, which Philadelphia is a city in, so that's where my brain got the mistake from. The median value was $369. Now, this was limited to currency seizures because valuations of other kinds of property, such as cars, depended on subjective appraisals, which may not be reliable. But just in cash, they really are stealing pennies, essentially, from in the civil asset forfeiture. So they're stealing from like petty criminals or petty people doing petty offenses, as opposed to like these big drug cartels. I should not brighten my eyes, but that's what I'm doing. Anyway, so continuing on. Continuing on in the article, that's not drug dealer money, said Jenny McDonald, a senior research analyst at the Institute of Justice who authored the study. She said, and her colleagues expected the figures to be low, but just how low they were shocked even us. Civil forfeiture is often used to target ordinary people stopped for minor infractions like traffic violations, where police purport to have a bias to suspect the money is connected to some kind of criminal act. Police officers have seized people's cars after finding a small amount of marijuana, sometimes when they plant them, or when a drug-sniffing dog indicated that drugs were once present in the car. So, according to this, basically, police officers, civil asset forfeiture, like the car, or stuff in the car, or the money in the car, when a drug-sniffing dog just smells the smells that they once smoked weed or crack in the car. So if your buddies happen to be smoking weed in your car, you let them because you didn't want them to smoke at your party or in their house for your apartment for whatever reason. So they're smoking in the car, and the the dog smells that at like a checkpoint, as it were. Then the police officers, according to this, pretty much can like just seize your car or just seize the money inside your car or on your persons because there was once drugs present, and it's quite possible wasn't yours. See, all cops are bad. Because even if they did not directly do this sort of civil forfeiture, which I don't know how people can defend, then they're complicit in it. Continuing on with the article. Police sometimes target families too. In 2013, ProPublica reported on how prosecutors in Philadelphia sought to seize the houses of often lower-income residents simply because a child or other relatives had sold small amounts of drugs while living there. Some of those families spent years in courts fighting to save their homes. The city has since reformed its civil forfeiture system after Institute of Justice lawyers filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of the citizens. Yeah, it's so they don't care. I think is almost, whether they intended to or not, or consciously knows or not, I think they do that on purpose sold a small amount of drugs in like the house, they want to seize the house to pressure those often black people or often Latinx people or often people of color to be forced out into of their homes to seek homelessness. And I'm not sure what Philadelphia is like, but I'm sure it has the same kind of like criminal homelessness laws as well, and then jail them for that to continue the prison industrial complex. I don't have proof of that, but I just have a feeling that that was kind of like the intention. At least institutes of justice have like actually filed a class action lawsuit to like get that reform changed in the system. But still, it kind of shows how like the system is just like full bastards, honestly. I'll continue with the article. One incentive for police to target low-dollar seizures is that they're not worth challenging in the courts. And Tiffany Wolf has said in the chat, the drug-sniffing dog has proven pretty much proven to be bogus. Dogs will signal to the police their handlers, who will harm the dogs if they do not get the signal they want. Wow. So, as I say, with like all the cops are bad, I do not extend that to dogs. I say the dogs are honestly victims as well. As Taffy just like I said, and Taffy is like very particular and very protective of like her fellow canines as well, and those dogs again just like they want to please the handlers, and so and they want to be treated well, or they don't want to be treated badly because like fair enough, and it's just like so that's why I have all the love for police dogs, because I think naturally honestly victims as well as the system as it is. It's like Taffy Wolf has explained, and so back to the sentence that I just read of like because like the low dollar seizures is not for challenging the courts. That's just like of an article I saw, where was it from, but it was like from last year, but still relevant today. It's that like the reason why the IRS does not audit the rich people that are literally stealing millions and are evading taxes all the time is because rich people have enough money. Hold on. Tabby Warfare said it has been confirmed. Yep, if you research a police dog's trainings, it's pretty much clearly animal abuse. Yep, that's what I suspected. Yeah. So let's read the police and dogs from the police themselves. Another example of why all police are bad. So back to the sentence about like how they target low dollar seizures because it's not worth challenging in the courts. That's why the IRS does not audit the rich people. They don't audit the rich people. The rich people have lawyers. The rich people have enough money or the lawyers on hand that they will challenge those audits through the courts to drag it out for a long time, and so that like, the IRS doesn't get the money. The IRS audits and goes after lower income people for like something or another that they see, because the lower income people are just willing to pay the back taxes or agree to have their wages garnished because it's not worth the trouble, or they do not have the like capital or the money to hire lawyers to fight those audits. Again, another kind of racketeering, but also kind of shows how the rich just can get away with like murder because they can get away with a lot more than lower income people because they have the money, have the capital, have the lawyers on and standby to be able to protect themselves. And it increases the divide between the 1% and 99%. Increases the divide between the capitalist class and the working class. Increases the divide between the wealthy and the impoverished. Continuing on with the article, the cost of hiring a lawyer and sometimes even the court filing fee may well exceed the amount of money at the issue. Okay, Tavi, that's fine. Wolf is asleep, falling asleep, may lie down, enjoy the stream. Yeah, thank you for like coming, Tavi, and thank you for your contributions to the stream as well. It was like quite helpful. I'll shout you out again since in case there's like new people. Oh, I'm also going to be putting up on YouTube, so like people can like see that shout out. Then check out Tavi the Wolfus at twitch.tv Tavi_the_Wolfus, and I will also shout out my other friend in the chat who also contributed to the conversation as well, Lin Wu, so LYN_WU, and Lin Wu. They were playing politics. I checked out that stream actually. She was reading non-US centric articles from Counterpunch about like other things that are happening around the world, not just in the US. And then later on you played Inkenfell. That's right. So Lin Wu is another political and gaming streamer, and Tabitha Wolfus is another political and gaming streamer as well. So enjoy your lie down, Tavi. Hopefully pain doesn't like doesn't kick your ass too much. But I'll continue on with you. As I was saying, the cost of hiring a lawyer and sometimes even the court filing fee may exceed the amount of money at issue. The Institute of Justice found that in the 4 states that track such data, 1/5 or fewer of the people involved sought to return their property. In Colorado, only 1% of forfeitures were challenged. The new study, the third and the most comprehensive edition of a report titled Policing for Profit, is built on data acquired through hundreds of public records requested to state and federal agencies, and many of which maintain only limited statistics on forfeitures. That lack of transparency can obscure abusive practices not only from the public but even from state and local officials. Again, this is why I say all police are bad, because they're not even like transparent in what they're doing. So I'll continue with the article. As Rob Rosenstein claimed about how forfeiture funds are distributed, the Institute of Justice had found that the U.S. Justice Department spend less than a third of what it brings in from civil forfeiture on compensating victims. Less than a third, and other third parties. Less than a third. Wow. So the money that they're forfeiting is not even like helping the victims. Of course, it's only going to police officers because hey, that's a nice coffee maker. Ooh, this is a cool muscle car. I want to get to drive around that. I'll continue with the article. Some states mandate a spending on victim compensation, but in at least 6 of the 15 states that disclose data on how forfeiture funds are spent, including Florida, Illinois, Oregon, and Utah, none of the money attained from civil asset forfeiture went towards paying back victims of crimes for what they've lost. The other 9 states either use negligible amounts to compensate victims or do not specify whether any money goes to the victims. Yeah, so if anyone says that, like, no, the civil asset forfeiture is going to go back and repay the victims of crimes, whatever the victims there are, if there are any victims of crimes, clearly it doesn't. Clearly, the police officers, this is why I said it's just looting. It's just the police officers doing looting. I'll continue with the article. Instead, law enforcement directed the money mostly towards salaries, equipment, and other operation expenses for some law enforcement agencies. Forfeiture funds have accounted for as much as 20% of their budgets and are something used for seemingly non-essential purchases. A police department in Georgia, for example, once spent $227,000 on an armored personnel carrier, and a sheriff in New Mexico splashed out $4,600 for a war banquet. In one recent case, a suburban Atlanta sheriff spent $70,000 in forfeiture funds on a muscle car, a Dodge Charger Hellcat, that he used solely to drive to and from work. The U.S. Justice Department called that purchase extravagant. You think? So I misread what they said in the photo. So I thought it's like they seized a muscle car from like some like drug dealers. That's where, or this is a sweet ass car, I'll take it. No, he just used the funds to pay for it. They just like having their fun money, as it were, so this is when I have to seriously bring it up to people who say, but we need the police to protect ourselves from the assholes. What about these assholes? What about these assholes that steal from low-income people that may, like, one time had drugs on their possessions, or the drug-sniffing dogs who wanted to sniff for drugs and give the signal, because he doesn't want to avoid a clear animal abuse. What if that person gets falsely accused of having once had drugs in his car, and it could have been like it could have been his buddy smoking there, or his money seized, or the car seized, and have that stuff, those people get looted. What if the police officers are assholes that are stealing from us? That's my challenge to any of those like assholes who defend the cops and saying, well, what if someone comes in and robs your place? Well, what if the police officer comes and robs your place? What then? Who do you call? Who do you call when it's the police officer stealing? Or the police officer and the asshole that are beating you up? There's no recourse. In 50 of the states, and I think all the territories too, there's no laws in the books. And in the District of Columbia too, there's no law in the books that detail what to do if the police officers that are supposed to be there enforcing the laws break the laws themselves. There's no recourse. Nothing in those laws. So the police officers, as it is right now, are above the law. Hence why abolish the freaking police. And why all cops are bad. Because even if they're complacent, they're bad. Continuing on. The U.S. Supreme Court has shown an interest in civil asset forfeiture in recent years. In 2017, Justice Clarence Thomas, the rapist, that's my commentary, continuing the article, expressed doubts about civil forfeiture practices can be squared with due process claims and other national histories. In our nation's history. The following year, in a case litigated by the Institute for Justice, the High Court ruled that the prohibition on excessive fines enumerated in the 8th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution applies to state-level civil assets forfeitures. I'll go back a little bit. Justice Clarence Thomas, not a rapist. I will at least say that. I will accurately say Justice Clarence Thomas definitely did some sexual misconduct stuff and sexual inappropriate behavior to Anita Hill, which Joe Biden, our now president-elect, chastised Anita Hill or grilled Anita Hill during the hearing. Joe Biden helped Clarence Thomas got on the bench. Clarence Thomas, who ruled against in favor of Bush and Bush v. Gore in 2000. And Joe Biden helped Anthony Scalia get on the bench too, just siding with his Republican and colleagues. Which is why even if Ruth Ginsburg survived until 2021, and it was Joe Biden who got the chance, who actually was allowed to pick a judge like Merrick Garland, I don't think Joe Biden would have been any better on picking a Supreme Court justice, as he has said publicly. I think he's actually not opposed to the pick of Amy Coney Barrett. So the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump is that Joe Biden's not going to say any mean tweets, or not going to fly off the handle as much, or say as much mean tweets, or be as belligerent. But Joe Biden won't send federal goons out to kill a counter protester who killed the Patriot Prayer assassins and gloat about it. At least Joe Biden won't do that. So Joe Biden won't be as abrasive. Anyway, so continuing on with the article after that tangent. At the same time, unified opposition by law enforcement had limited and even scuffled reform efforts. And there's reason to believe that the coming years may see police pursue civil forfeiture aggressively. So Side note here, yeah, so even if there is reform of some kind, you will see police officers resist it, and police departments resist it. Up and down for as long as possible. They will resist it as long as possible. And because like it happened before, where it's like I think it was the city of Minneapolis banned the use of warrior training for training police officers, yet the police union continued to use warrior training off the record anyway. I'm fine with like reform happening, and if like it's like it makes things progressively a little better, but I just doubt it'll be effective, honestly. I'll continue because like yeah, the police officers are going to just like aggressively pursue civil forfeiture and be resistant to reforms up and down as whatsoever. So, but I'll continue with the rest of the article. I think I'm going to finish it up actually soon. Activists protesting police brutality have pushed since this summer, and with some success, to have cities reduce law enforcement funding, and state and city budgets nationwide are facing severe strain in the coming years, hit hard by the economic consequences of the coronavirus pandemic. A 2019 study by an economics professor at Seattle University, published in a collaboration with the Institute of Justice, suggests a link between funding constraints and forfeiture practices. When budget tightens, the study found police tend to pursue civil asset forfeiture with greater vigor. Everyone, protect your communities, protect yourselves, learn the laws, really look out for each other, because clearly, like I said, the police are the assholes we have to protect ourselves from. They're not going to protect us. This is why I'm against the state, because the police are the tools of the state. I know liberals will swear up and down that like we can reform the police and we can defund the police and reform the state, and reform is like, I don't think so. You can try it, but as like shown here, if people actually, if like city councilors and other people in other cities actually do reform and defund the police are just going to aggressively civil forfeiture with great vigor to make up for their losses. Okay. I bet I'm going to be pissed off at the next article. Because again, of how police are bastards. And the state is a bastard too.